Hi everyone, welcome back. So, did the Indian government actually hire agents to murder Hardeep Singh Nijjar? Let's watch this video and find out.
Canada has expelled India's High Commissioner and other diplomats, linking them to the murder of a Sikh activist on Canadian soil last year. India has also ordered the expulsion of six high-ranking Canadian diplomats from its territory. The diplomatic row comes after.
Now, it's very important to understand whenever we are watching news, it's important to keep our minds open because, see, this is a news. A news is being presented, but you have to use your own intelligence to understand what could be the truth. Because, so, for example, in a situation like this, it is not possible to know for certain what the truth is. Did the Indian government actually hire and send agents to murder a Canadian citizen, Hardeep Singh Nijjar in this case? And if so, why they did that? And the reasons, if we assume that Indian government actually did that, then the reason is obvious because of the growing anti-national sentiments against India in Canada, especially perpetrated by the Sikh separatists in Canada, because Canada is a very liberal country, right? So people, common citizens in Canada, have a lot of power. So and they have rights and a lot of power, which has its pros and cons. Obviously, freedom is amazing. Freedom is good. For our society, freedom is good if used in the collective good of the society, but freedom can be detrimental if individuals use their given freedom by the country to use that freedom for their own selfish reasons, which can be extremely detrimental. So in this case, let's observe. So it's very very important to keep our minds open when we are watching news. So first point, that everything still now is allegations. Nothing has been proven, but the thing has again come up because of the latest developments, where they are saying that the Canadian government has now substantial evidence. They are claiming that they have substantial evidence to support their previous allegations made by actually just the Prime Minister. I mean, as far as I remember, I mean, the government didn't say anything. It's the Prime Minister. But then again, I mean, if the Prime Minister is saying something, it's backed up by his party, which is the Liberal Party of Canada here. So basically, these are claims made by the ruling current Liberal Party of Canada. And right now they're saying like they have substantial evidence to support their claims. So let's watch and let's try to understand what could be the truth.
Indian diplomats of being involved in the killing of a Sikh separatist leader and targeting his support. Canadian as High Commissioner and other diplomats, linking them to the murder of a Sikh activist on Canadian. Canada has expelled India's High Commissioner and other diplomats, linking them to the murder of a Sikh activist on Canadian soil last year. India has also ordered the expulsion of six high-ranking Canadian diplomats from its territory. The diplomatic row comes after Ottawa accused the Indian diplomats of being involved in the killing of a Sikh separatist leader and targeting his supporters in Canada. Delhi rejects the allegation as preposterous. Canada's
So far we know that Canadian government has made the allegations, and Indian government has rejected the allegations. Now, which is like, obviously, I mean, what else would you expect whenever conflict, in a situation of conflict in geopolitics or even national politics? I mean, that is what happens. So far everything is just normal. We don't know anything.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said Ottawa's intelligence agencies had collected irrefutable evidence that could not be ignored, and that he was forced to take action.
So these are the claims made by the Canadian government, that they have irrefutable evidence, as the claims are being like, as you can hear it from DW News, that they have irrefutable evidence to support their claims. These are, again, still, it's all allegations. Nothing has been proven.
It is necessary to disrupt the criminal activities that continue to pose a threat to public safety in Canada. That is why we acted, because we will always, first and foremost, stand for the rights of Canadians to feel safe and secure in their own country. We will never tolerate the involvement of a foreign government threatening and killing Canadian citizens on Canadian soil.
Earlier, DW's
Obviously, any leader of any country or any place, I mean, it's obvious. Like the leader would expect that his followers are in a position, in a place of safety. That is the expectation of any leader, which is fine. Now let's watch
Delhi Bureau
more.
Chief Sandra Petasman explained how India has responded to these allegations.
Of course, this story makes huge headlines in India, and the reaction is by the preferred mode of India's government. So we haven't seen any pressure yet, but yesterday India's Ministry of External Affairs issued 3 written statements, all of them back to back with a little bit of space in between. And let me focus on the first one, the longest one, because I want to give you an indication of the kind of language that was implied. You see me
So let's hear the first statement now, as she's
here with
telling
notes,
us here.
because I'm now, the next couple of sentences will all be direct quotes from this very first statement.
All right.
The government of Canada has shred of evidence with the government of India. Then it also
So, as per the claims made by the Indian government, the Canadian government hasn't shared anything so far.
says
So
Prime
that's
Minister
first statement.
Trudeau's hostility to India has long been in evidence. And last but not least, this line, after accusing Trudeau of a, quote, anti-India separatist agenda, the Trudeau government has consciously provided space to violent extremists and terrorists to harass, threaten, and intimidate Indian diplomats. Now, all of this, compared to other statements by the Ministry of External Affairs here in India, is crystal clear in its language. It's very harsh. There is no diplomatic sugarcoating whatsoever. And this is potentially indicating how severe the situation is. We have reached sub-zero temperatures in Indo-Canadian relations. And also let me point to the second statement, because that is in stark contrast to Canada saying that they expelled 6 Indian diplomats. India actually says that they withdrew Indian diplomats from Canada because the Canadian government could not guarantee for their safety. That, of course, is another tit for tat in this diplomatic row, Nicole.
Sandra, how did we get to this point?
So, like you guys heard, so like how they're claiming that there's no diplomatic sugarcoating, which is fine. I don't think there's. I mean, why should there be any kind of sugarcoating? Sugarcoating is the problem of the world. Honestly, people should be just transparent, right? I mean, isn't it a better world where people are just transparent about everything that they say or the claims that they make? So I mean, she's not saying like it's just a statement she's making. She's not accusing India or Canada of being anything. They're just I think they're just reporting the news as it is, which is fine. Now, if we assume for a second that India did this, like Indian government actually this, if let's assume that Canadian government, their allegations, it's true. Let's assume. Then what? It's actually very bad for the public image of India in a global geopolitical landscape. Definitely, it shows a very bad image of India. I mean, it creates a bad image, and it's a gross misconduct, and it's an offense on an it's a very serious offense on an international level, because this is a crime made by a government of a country. This is a national level crime, which again will paint a very bad image for India. Now, what could be the motivations for Indian government? Do you think that Indian government actually sent agents to do this? I mean, it's possible. I mean, so far nothing has been proven. So let's not forget that that nothing has been proven. Let's not forget that. That's important to remember. But is it possible? Why not? Definitely, it's possible. And what could be the motives of Indian government if the government of India actually did that? To basically subsidize, not subsidize. What could be the word? Like to take a stand against the rising anti-national and anti-India sentiments in liberal countries, especially in Canada. I mean, I don't think there's any other country where there's if you've been watching the news in Canada, there's like a lot of Indian migrants from certain communities like the Sikh community and Muslim community, I think. But the right now the image is on the Sikh community, that they are being extremely they're creating an anti-India narrative in Canada. But personally, I don't think there is such a it should. I mean, if we assume that India actually did that, Indian government actually sent the agents and did the whole fiasco, then it's actually a worse image for India. Even if like the pro-Khalistan leaders, they're actually creating they have anti-India sentiments in a foreign country. But I mean, they can have, it's within their right because they're not in India, right? For example, if a group of Chinese settlers in Canada, they are criticizing China and they are creating anti-Chinese sentiments in Canada. I mean, it's within their rights. They can do that. Certainly, there's nothing wrong. I mean, they're not being wrong because they're not in China, so they can do that in any other country. So if India actually did that, because it's not been proven, but because Canadian government, I mean, if they didn't have substantial evidence to believe that the Indian government actually did what they're claiming that they did, I don't think they would have taken such a big step, because it's a country, right? It's a big country. Canada has a public image in the world, a reputation that it will obviously want to protect. So I think it's a big risk they're taking when they're claiming that with these allegations, because these are serious, extremely serious allegations. So I don't think that a government would just wake up in the morning and just make these allegations, and like how India is claiming that these are the hostility of Indian of the Canadian Prime Minister towards the Indian government, his hostile attitude. If I had to think, I don't think that that the Canadian government would have actually made these allegations if they actually didn't believe that these to be true. So it's certainly possible. I mean, see, it's possible because it's not proven. So either this or that, anything is possible. But it's definitely, I mean, it's possible. But we cannot assume that Indian government did that, because that would be the incorrect, for lack of better words. That would be the that would be the wrong thing to do, and not just wrong. That would be the incorrect thing to do. I mean, I'm just falling short of words here. That would be the wrong thing to do. Yeah. So so far I don't think like so yeah, it's a tricky situation. It's a messy situation. But then again, who knows where it will this conflict will lead to. And there are so many Indians who live in Canada, so that's a tricky situation. So yeah, let's see. Let's watch further.
Yeah, we should probably first focus on the person that is at the very beginning of this diplomatic row. It's Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a Sikh activist, a Sikh separatist who was advocating for an independent Sikh homeland in the northern parts of India. He did so from Canadian soil. Now, for India's government, for the government of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, but also consecutive Indian governments before that, Sikh separatist.
Now, I just wanted to mention one point here. So, like I said before, like with the example of the of Chinese people in other countries, if they're creating anti-Chinese sentiments. Now, in China, now there's a difference when it comes to China and India in this regard. In this example, China is a country where there are like you won't find Google or Facebook. I mean, China is a very censored country. People don't have access to a lot of information when it comes to like what is happening outside of China, the world, and on a geopolitical space. They have access to information. They can use VPN to get access to, and they know what is happening all over the world. But you get my point. India is not censored in that sense, like to an extent of Russia, where you cannot find Facebook or Google. You don't have Facebook or Google in Russia, in North Korea, in China. You have to use their services. It's very censored. The information flow is very restricted and very national in these countries. But India is not like that. India is very India is very open. I mean, for as far as access to information goes. I mean, you can tell because I'm sitting here in India and watching this on YouTube and just making this video. So I mean, yeah, I'm free to do so. So in this regard, with the example of what I said earlier, if Sikh people, Sikh people, they are creating anti-national and pro-Khalistan sentiments in a different country outside of India, the impact of that radicalization of that mindset that's being created outside of India, that will have a direct impact in India, because the leaders and their speech and the leadership, for example, if a person like Hardeep Singh Nijjar, I honestly don't know if he was so radicalized. I mean, I think for like most people, I got to know about this person only after the murder. I didn't know his name before that, even though I watch a lot of news and I follow geopolitical news, what is going on all over the world. I always have a keen interest in what is happening in other countries and in the world, because it's like whatever, yeah, that's a different thing. But I'm just deviating from the topic. But as far as this example was considered, obviously the radicalization of the mindset that will be created in a foreign country, its impact will be visible in India. So it will ultimately create a hostile situation in India as well. Obviously not to that extent as in Canada, because in India we will suppress the people if they try to speak up, right? Because in India even though we have human rights, and even though it's extended to certain and I mean, human rights is more compared to, let's say, in China. You don't know what goes on in China or in other conservative countries like Saudi Arabia, right? I mean, do you think you can criticize the Saudi government and expect nothing to happen to you? No, right? But in India, you can criticize the government. But obviously, you don't have so much freedom as you have in America or in Canada. But still, I think it's important to understand that the sentiments that will be created in a foreign country against our home country, it will have an impact over India as well. So yeah, I just felt that it's important to
Separatists
note.
are essentially seen as a threat to national security, as extremists, as terrorists, and this has been conveyed to Canada time and again. So by implicating the Indian government, its representative in form of senior Indian diplomats, in his killing on Canadian soil in the summer of last year, that is actually implicating the Indian government in a homicide committed on Canadian soil, and that is very serious allegations.
That was DW's Delhi Bureau Chief Sandra Petersman. Thank you so much, Sandra, for all of that.